We'll call the meeting to order. The regular meeting of the City Council of Poplar Bluff, Missouri to be held on Monday, March 18th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the City Council chambers at 301 South 5th Street. Tonight we'll have our invocation by the Reverend Frank Klozak from the First Christian Church. If you'll come forward, please rise.
First of all, it's a privilege to be here, represent the church, and to pray for you. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, we pause tonight to give you thanks for this beautiful day that has went before us and the opportunity to serve you. We thank you for this wonderful place we live in called Southeast Missouri, Poplar Bluff. We pause tonight to lift up our brothers and sisters in Northwest Missouri and those along the Missouri River who are facing flooding. Keep them safe from harm's way. We also lift up our fellow Americans in Nebraska and Iowa who are also facing devastating floodwaters. Watch over them and protect them and their livestock. We lift up all the first responders who are putting their lives in harm's way in Missouri, Nebraska, and Iowa to protect them during this natural disaster. We also lift up our local first responders who protect us and help us in all disasters. Tonight, we thank you for these elected servant citizens who have come together to do the work of the City Council. We thank them for putting service to the community over selfish gain. As these members of the City Council gather tonight to do the city's business, we pray that they will be given discernment and wisdom by your Spirit's presence to lead our city forward. Give them courage to make the hard decisions that will benefit our fair city. We ask these petitions in the one who created the world we live in and gives us abundant life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll have roll call, please, Ms. Kirby.
Councilman DeGaris.
Here.
Councilwoman Horton. Here. Councilman Cornman.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilman Black.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Here.
And Mayor McVeigh. Here. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Kirby. Disclosure of interest. Any member of the City Council may disclose any possible conflict of interest dealing either with any item on the printed agenda or any matter discussed at a previous meeting.
Madam Mayor, I envision a potential conflict of interest regarding workshop items J and K and also action item DD Bill 8130. Therefore, I will recuse myself from any discussion, decision, or vote concerning those items.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move to citizens' input. Each person in the audience may take this opportunity to address the City Council on any matter which is not on the printed agenda. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Greg West. I live at 1184 County Road 476, Poplar Bluff. I'd like to comment on the last meeting this council had. I wasn't able to attend it, but I was able to watch it on the YouTube, which I appreciate the fact that the council does make that available for our citizens. I'd like to first start by thanking Councilman Robert Smith for making the motion to approve the choice of engineers for the paving grant. I've personal experience with both Mathis and Smith engineering firms, and it's all been positive. And then I find it troubling that Matt Winters, our city planner with over 9 years experience in grant writing and policy at his previous job, and Mr. Jerry Lawson, street superintendent, with I think around 20 years of experience in the street department, both hired by the city for their expertise, followed the protocol set forth by the council. In fact, even exceeded the requirements according to Mayor McVeigh. And then when the results were not as the mayor and Councilman DeGaris expected, they were called into question. Our city manager stated at the beginning of the discussion, and I quote, "Of course, any of the engineers could do the job." I was not aware or missed the fact that Mayor McVeigh or Councilman DeGaris had expertise in the engineering or grant writing, so I was puzzled when the Mathis bid was called into question on its validity. This seems to be a vote of no confidence into the people that were hired by the council to do their job. In fact, I quote Mayor McVeigh stating, "The two people that did the scoring had not been around. Matt had worked in a previous position along with this type of line, but the street superintendent hadn't been around that long. Is 20 years experience not enough?" I've personally dealt with both of these gentlemen with good results. The obligation of the City Council is to represent the citizens of Poplar Bluff, not one vendor over another. This action does not put the citizens of Poplar Bluff's best interest first by getting the city's gravel streets paved. Also, it sets a precedent of even though the city protocol is followed and a council person calls into question the validity of the results, they can have a do-over. According to what Mr. Winters and Mr. Massingham said at the previous council meeting, there may not be enough time to rebid for the engineering and a time to write the grant. So now, our city stands to lose over $500,000 for what? A qualified bidder outscored another qualified bidder. These are just some observations of your last city council.
Mr. West, this is item A on our agenda tonight. We'll be voting on it again tonight.
I'm glad to hear it. Can I finish?
You may.
These are just some observations of your last council meeting you might want to consider when you make this choice. It sounds like you're going to make tonight, and I appreciate that. Because to quote Mayor McVeigh, and I agree with her comment in the last meeting, I'd hate to do the wrong thing and see our city miss out on potentially $500,000 in grant money, because if it's good for Poplar Bluff, it's good for my neighbors and me. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. That's why I requested to put it back on the agenda, and we just could not get a second. I called for a second more than once, did not get a second, so it died for lack of second. But we do have it on the agenda tonight. It's the first item.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other citizens that would like to come forward? All right, if not, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The items of the consent agenda are approved by a single action of the City Council. If any council member would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and consider it separately, he or she may do so. I'd like to make a note that in the minutes of February 4th, it was noted that I was absent, and I had also made the motion to adjourn the meeting. So Ms. Kirby's going to get that corrected. It was actually Mayor Pro Tem that adjourned the meeting. Is there any other corrections or additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion and second to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Workshop items. Item A, the City Council will review proposal received for engineering services for a community development block grant for the paving of various streets. Mr. Massingham?
Yes, as I explained in my manager's report to the council, to me this is a very important project for Poplar Bluff that would allow to pave streets in low to moderate income neighborhoods. What I did was I sent you all the original engineer ratings, and I also sent you two new ratings, one by Mr. Bach at Utilities and one by myself. Mr. Bach and I both rated them even. Like I said at the last meeting, I think either one of these engineering companies can do the job. Mathis did an excellent job on the C Street Railroad project last year, and we are still recommending Mathis for this project.
Thank you, Mr. Massingham. Is there any discussion from the council? I think we're very blessed to have so many qualified engineers in the area, and we're very blessed to have this grant, so fortunately, hopefully it will still be going through. I entertain a motion and second to move item A to the voting session to be held tonight.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, the City Council will review proposed resolution authorizing the city to apply for a sub-applicant grant to the Community Development Block Grant for Workforce Training Initiative. Three Rivers College is the applicant, and the City of Poplar Bluff is the sponsor. Mr. Massingham?
Yes, as you mentioned, this is for a workforce training initiative program with Three Rivers Community College to help some of the industry down in the industrial park. I know Felicity is here from Ozark Foothills. If you have any questions for her, let her explain it.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Felicity Ray, 2366 Willowbrook Lane, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Representing Ozark Foothills Regional Planning Commission. Asked to come here tonight to speak with you regarding this potential project. This is a special initiative. This is its first time being released by the state of Missouri, this potential funding opportunity. The state of Missouri is harnessing existing mechanisms to disperse grant funding and compiling them into a special initiative to help train workforce. And the Poplar Bluff Chamber of Commerce, Three Rivers College, Poplar Bluff R1 schools, and the Planning Commission have been discussing this opportunity with personnel at the city. The reason for the City of Poplar Bluff's participation is that the particular type of funding for which the initiative can be pursued is through the Community Development Block Grant. And with the Community Development Block Grant, only cities and counties can make application. So if the college wishes to benefit and the Poplar Bluff, the industries in Poplar Bluff wish to benefit from the program, the city would have to step up and take the lead role. And that is the reason for this resolution. The technical terminology, the City of Poplar Bluff would be the sponsor for the application, and Three Rivers College would be the sub-applicant.
Motion will pass the voting session later tonight.
Second.
I have a motion and second to move item B to the voting session to be held tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Ms.
Yeah, let me clarify one
Yes.
more thing. The way that the state has designed this particular program is they are accepting letters of intent. So the Regional Planning Commission will be working with the city and the other partners to put together a letter of intent. And if the state feels like our letter is promising, they'll invite a full application. So hopefully you'll see us again.
Very good. Thank you very much. Item C, the City Council will review an agreement for engineering services between the City of Poplar Bluff and S.H. Smith and Company, Inc. for the 11th Street Bridge reconstruction project.
Yes, this is for the CDBG project on 11th Street, the bridge, and this is just an agreement with Smith and Company to do that work. Smith and Company was approved by the council as the engineer several meetings ago.
Are there any questions from the council? If not, entertain a motion and second to move item C to the voting session to be held on April the 1st.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item D, the City Council will discuss a proposed ordinance authorizing the mayor of City of Poplar Bluff to execute an agreement between the City of Poplar Bluff and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Dispatchers Group Local 702 for its members who are employees of the Poplar Bluff Police Department. Mr. Massingham?
Yeah, several months ago, our Human Resource Director, Tim Eddington, Chief Watley, and Deputy Chief Trout, and several other officers met with Mr. Baker with IBEW and a representative from the dispatchers, and we spent many hours whittling through this contract. And I guess in my opinion, this is about as close to all the other contracts as you can get. As I mentioned in my letter to you all, they did have a monetary request that was for differential pay, shift differential pay. The total cost of that is about $2,600 a year. other than that, really, most everything in there matches the other contracts. So I would just ask you to, it's not on the voting session tonight, but ask you to pass that to the next voting session. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Chief Whiteley's here. Deputy Chief Trout's here also.
Are there any questions from the council?
I don't have any questions. I recognize it took a lot of work, time, on a lot of people's part to pull it together, and appreciate all those who were involved in it. With that, I'd make a motion to pass it to our voting session
April 1st.
April 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second to move item D to the voting session to be held on April 1st. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, the City Council will review a request from Municipal Utilities Advisory regarding an amendatory agreement with Southwestern Power Administration. Mr. Bill Bach.
Yes, Madam Mayor, member of this council, this proposed mandatory agreement will provide provision for scheduling peaking energy to make the scheduling more flexible for Poplar Bluff. We discussed this at the advisory board and would recommend this approval. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the council?
Make a motion to pass the voting session April 1. Second.
The motion is second to move item E to the voting session to be held on April 1st. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, the City Council will review a request from Municipal Utilities Advisory Board for bids received for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. Mr. Bach?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council. If the council recalls, these upgrades would include the utilization of 3 existing cells in the equalization basin by removing the existing aeration system and replace it with a fine bubble diffuser and mixers in cell 1, adding aeration to cell 2, and adding floating covers to all 3 cells. We will also add in addition a nitrification reactor and ultraviolet disinfectant system, which will be added after cell 3 prior to the final discharge. In 2012, the citizens of Poplar Bluff passed a $20 million bond to issue to secure monies from the state revolving fund to pay for these upgrades. In 2015, we reached an agreement, a settlement agreement, with Missouri DNR to implement the upgrades to the plant that have to be made in order to meet the new regulations imposed by DNR. In January of this year, 2019, the city went out for bids on the project. I believe in your package you have the bid tabs for the review. As you can see from the attached bid tab, the low bidder was Brockmiller Construction out of Farmington, Missouri, with a base bid amount of $17,044,198. With alternate number 1, the bid was $18,166,000, or $548. The alternate bid includes a replacement of the 3 existing screw pumps. We discussed this at the advisory board meeting today and would recommend the approval of the low bidder. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Bach?
I've got some questions, and I've talked to Smith & Company earlier today, and they have answered most. But I wanted to, Mr. Bach, I just want to make sure you were aware on the bid tabs, there are 9 items on there that had to be adjusted, what they had considered rounding errors. Are you aware of that?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And did you have any concerns on line item 34 and line item 35?
You're referring to the 175 horsepower blower motor
Yes, that's correct.
and the reconfiguration of the existing blowers?
Yeah, 3 on the quantity for the reconfiguration, 2 on the quantity for the new blowers. The new blowers roughly run about $150,000. They have an estimate of $5,000 there. And then they also, in their bid, they're saying they can reconfigure those 3 existing pumps for $5,000. And then another question that I had, when you go up to line item 28, they are at 8.7 million. The next overall low bid is at 5.7. My concern is that this bid is pretty unbalanced, one of the more unbalanced bids that I've seen. And I just wanted to make you aware in case you hadn't actually had a chance to go over the tabs. I know you're a busy man, so I
No.
want the rest of the council to be aware of the situation.
No, actually, we went through bid item by bid item.
Okay.
I actually reached out to Carl Lumley, who's done a lot of legal work with us for the last 18 years that I've been here. He actually is the City of Clayton attorney, and asked his opinion on it, and basically a moot point. The number that matters is the $17,044,000.
Okay. We're not worried about the quantity changes?
There is no quantity changes.
So you're saying there'll be no change orders on this job?
Well, specifically, item 34, they are buying 2 new motors for $10,000.
Right. Well, why would, my question is, why would we reconfigure for $5,000 when we can get new ones for $5,000?
Well, the engineer didn't spec it that way.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's my understanding that we're required to take the low bid,
That's my understanding, yes.
and it's my understanding that you're saving the city almost $1 million, like $800,000 by taking the low bid?
That's correct.
I don't think that, the base bid is $17,044,000. Second bid is $17,560,000. It looks more like of a difference of around $500,000.
Well, with the
Aren't we
alternate,
working with the bottom
But
line?
you're gonna do the alternative bid? Okay.
that's correct. If we do the alternate,
All right.
yeah.
I make a motion that we table this item.
Second.
This could cost us quite a bit on a project we've been working on for 16 years. Are you sure you want to do that?
I mean, I know Smith and Company and Mr. Baca spent a lot of time on this. I know they both talked to,
Technically speaking, wouldn't this just buy us a couple weeks to overlook the bid process? And we've been at it for 12 years. I don't really think a couple weeks would matter.
Is 2 weeks going to cause a problem, Mr. Bott?
No, I don't think 2 weeks will, but if we get into a legal dispute, that definitely will.
We may not ever get to that point. I think we just
Right.
want to have a little more time to look over the bids.
I mean,
This would be something that we'd be voting on the April 2nd. You would have that 2 weeks if you didn't table it. If you would leave it in the process, you could also stop it at the April 1st meeting after that 2 weeks if that wasn't enough time for you.
I believe it would just set us back 2 weeks. I don't see a big issue with that, but
Could we just move it as a workshop to the next meeting rather than table it?
Make it a workshop another week.
Let's workshop it again. Could we do that?
yeah, we've had a motion and a second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kirby?
Councilman DeGaris.
no,
Councilwoman Horton.
No.
Councilman Cornman.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilman Black.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
And Mayor McVeigh.
No.
That's 4 no, 3 yes.
So to table it has failed. So we can entertain a motion to move this to the voting session on April 1st, or any other motion you would decide.
I'll make the motion to move to the voting session on April 1st.
Second.
We have a motion and second to move item F to the voting session to be held on April 1st. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
1, 2, 3. We have 3 noes. Barbara, did you say no? Let's do a roll call.
Division,
Let's do a voice count. I'm sorry.
Councilman DeGaris.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton.
No.
Councilman Cornman.
No.
Councilman Smith.
No.
Councilman Black.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
No.
And Mayor McVeigh.
Yes.
We have 4 no.
How do we have 4 no? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 no. Okay, so moving this to the voting session has failed. Would somebody like to make another motion?
Could we move to the
Workshop it again, possibly?
workshop it? I'll move that we workshop it April 1st again.
Okay. Do we have a second to workshop it on April 1st?
Second.
We have a motion and second to workshop item F on April 1st. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So item F will come up on workshop on April 1st.
Mayor, clarification, then we would also have a voting session that night?
Yes, we could have.
Well, I think
They want to workshop it twice. But it could still be moved if somebody makes a motion. But it won't be voted on April 1st unless somebody makes that motion, I believe, because they're workshopping it twice. We're just holding it up 2 weeks. Is that clear enough?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item G, the City Council will review a bid received from financial proposals to finance the acquisitions of 2 new John Deere 410L backhoe loaders for over a 5-year agreement. Mr. Messingham?
Yes, the street department's been trying to upgrade a lot of their outdated equipment. We're asking to buy 2 backhoes, loaders, and finance over a 5-year agreement. The total for this equipment will be $230,200. We'll be trading in old equipment for $40,000 and make a down payment with that, and another $30,200 down payment this year that we have in the budget for capital equipment, which would leave $160,000 to be financed over 5 years. We got 2 proposals, one from First Midwest Bank and one from First Missouri Bank.
Are there any questions from the council regarding this equipment?
Make a motion to move item G to the voting session April 1st.
Second.
We have a motion and second to move item G, the voting session, to be held on April 1st. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item H, the City Council review a request from the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve the request to rezone properties from RS2 General Residential to RA2 Residential Apartment for future multifamily development. The property is located at 2646 Crestwood Drive, and the applicant is W. Dean Million and W. Dean Million Revocable Living Trust Agreement, Post Office Box 1047, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Mr. Winters?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As she stated, the applicant is W. Dean Million and the W. Dean Million Revocable Living Trust Agreement, requesting to rezone this property from RS2 Single Family Residential to RA2 Residential Apartments. And the property is located at 2646 Crestwood, and it's approximately 1 3/4 acre. The designation of this property to RA2 residential apartment will not be out of character in this neighborhood. There are apartment complexes to the north and to the west, and also in the county around the property. Zoning this property as RA2 would be a good transitional buffer between the single-family residential homes to the south and the west, and the commercial property to the east and to the north. And the Planning and Zoning Commission, along with the planning staff, recommends approval of this request.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Is there any questions or comments from the council? If not, I entertain a motion to move item H to the voting session to be held on April 1st.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item I, the City Council review a proposed resolution opposing the constitutional amendment initiative petition proposing a statewide vote of consolidation of St. Louis City and St. Louis County and the cities within the St. Louis County known as the Better Together Plan. Mr. Messingham?
Yes. Excuse me. I mentioned at the last meeting that we had learned about this at the Missouri Municipal League Conference, and basically what this is St. Louis City and County are wanting to gobble up all the other little cities in St. Louis County, take over their revenues, and operate that as, I guess, one big operation. That would be similar to Poplar Bluff and Butler County, taking over Fisk, Hewlin, Neelyville, and Brosley, all those little places, and taking their funds away from him, and everything operated out of here. And the bad thing about it is this proposal, it wouldn't be just the people in those areas voting on it. It would be people across the entire state who really wouldn't understand it and possibly vote for it. And I think most cities across the state are opposing this, and we've all been asked to do this resolution. I think we should. So.
Thank you, Mr. Massingham. Yes, the Missouri Municipal League Board, of which I'm a member, it strongly encourages the cities to be supportive, because this could be coming to a city near you, and it's something that would go to a statewide vote. Not only are they trying to consolidate, Better Together sounds as a good tag word, but it's really not better for the citizens. They'll be taking all their revenues, but leaving them with all of their debt. They will also be appointing people and not letting the citizens vote for the council or for the members, and or the appointing the judges and such. So they're trying to consolidate all, take all the revenue. The citizens would no longer have a voice, but yet the citizens would have all the debt. So we are just in support of not supporting Better Together, and that's all this is doing. But seriously, it could be coming to a city near you, is what they're saying. Right now, it's just working in St. Louis and Kansas City area, but they're trying to make it statewide. So it's very disturbing when you dig into it and learn what, and you know, a movement starts with words, and that's why we get to this point. So we want to protect the citizens' rights to vote.
Mayor, I appreciate your remarks and Mr. Massingham's. I, too, am greatly concerned about this. I think it's a total backward step. I think it's a concentration of government without representation.
Exactly.
And in our pastor's prayer tonight, he mentioned civil citizen servants, or might have been the other phrase. It takes that away.
It does.
And so I think this is a good thing for us to take a stand on. I know other communities are looking at it and being encouraged to, and I expect that there will be an overwhelming affirmation with our other sister cities.
It seems to be, from what we're hearing throughout the state that report back to Missouri Municipal League. We also met with our representatives and senator, and they are on board with us as well. I know each of the people that went over to the Capitol at the legislative update we went to in February, which was one of the most awesome meetings I've been to through all these 15-plus years. It's just good to keep communication lines open and visit with them, and they were not really fully aware of it, but now once they've gotten into it, they have dove into it to see that this is a movement that we do not want to happen, especially to a small area like us. I mean, the big city, it's going to affect them. Sometimes it might help their budget-wise as far as they have plenty of money and they don't have to worry about little small court. But here, it's a big thing to our small cities, and so we want to keep it, and we want to keep the people being able to vote. So it's very important. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on so much about it, but I'm very passionate about this one. Yeah, we need a motion to move this to the voting session to be held.
Any other comments for us? Make a motion to pass the voting session
Tonight.
Second.
Motion and second for item I to be voted on tonight. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Oops. Okay, item J, the City Council review an amendment to the Poplar Bluff Code of Ordinance, Section 120.060, relative to residency requirements for certain positions. Mr. Massingham?
Yeah, several years ago, we changed the residency requirement. At that time, before it was changed, all employees had to live within a 12-mile radius of the Business 6067 junction where the old water tower was, with the exception of department heads were required to live inside the city limits. At that time, we changed it to include all department heads, and all employees had to live within the boundaries of Butler County, with the exception of the city clerk and the city manager. At that time, both of those positions were required by state statute to live inside the city limits. That's no longer the exception with the city clerk's office. I really don't know if they changed that on the city manager or not, but I truly believe the city manager needs to live in the city limits. What we're proposing here is the residency requirement for the city clerk be allowed to live within the boundaries of Butler County.
Thank you, Mr. Massingham. I'm a firm believer that we get the best person for the job, and this has really come to light now that Ms. Kirby has announced her retirement, and we are in pursuit of looking for her replacement. As you know, our county is growing, several subdivisions outside the city limits, as well as further out into the county. Not everybody lives in the city limits, so just a good time to do some housekeeping and clean up the ordinance that was started by already changing it to the department heads, and this would just clean it up so that we would be able to also include the city clerk. Are there any questions from the council? If not, I entertain a motion and a second to move item J to the voting session to be held tonight.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
No.
Aye. Wait till I call, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
So we have 2 noes?
No, we have
3 noes.
no.
I'm sorry, I can't hear on this corner over here. It's very difficult. So we have 3-3. Motion is tied. It does not pass. Item K, the City Council will review an amendment to the Poplar Bluff Code of Ordinances, Section 120.240, relative to the employment of relatives. Mr. Massingham?
I think you should have gotten your packet, 5 or 6 different options that other cities are using. I know we do have an ordinance on hiring the relatives in the book. Guess I'll just kind of leave it open for discussion. And
We have discussed this in and roundabout ways, and so I just felt like it's important to put both these items. I put them both on the agenda so that we could talk to them with transparency and clarity. Also, we didn't workshop and vote it because that way we would know what we would want to put into, to have our city attorney to put into the ordinance. We're open. I believe it was Bridgeton. Ms. Kirby was kind enough to get us several sample ordinances from around the state. It is a very common practice. We do have an ordinance in place, but this would just define it a little better. Again, it's just kind of, with the change of her position, it's just a good time to kind of clean up, do some housekeeping on our ordinances that when they did the codification, I think they had not made any changes on these in quite some years. So it's just an opportunity time to do that. If you don't want to, doesn't have to be, but that's what brought this up.
I have a question.
Okay, yeah, this is discussion.
Obviously, my mind has been a little bit elsewhere the last 2 or 3 days. What is our present ordinance? I don't remember.
Someone else can cite it for you here.
I can't see that. I can't read it.
Just a moment, we'll pull it up.
Yeah.
It's on page 249, I believe, isn't it?
I think that's our proposed one.
Huh?
No, that's the current one.
Is that our current, 249 is our current one?
I believe so.
Can you make it big for, so she can read it? Or I can read it out loud, I don't mind. Article 1, Section 120.240, employment of immediate relatives. A, immediate family defined shall mean spouses, children, stepdaughter, stepson, parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, parent-in-law, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, or grandchildren. Immediate family shall also include persons related by blood or marriage residing in an employee's home. Item B is conditions where immediate family may not be employed. Immediate family shall not be employed in any positions where 1, 2 or more family members would be employed in the same city department. Item 2, 1 member would have the authority to supervise, appoint, remove, or discipline or evaluate the performance of another. Item 3, 1 member would be responsible for auditing the work of the other. And item 4, other circumstances exist which would place the family members in a situation of actual or reasonably foreseeable conflict between the city's interest and their own.
And this is our present.
This is our present one, and we experienced going through a time when our city clerk was not able to be in here, and so the city clerk position is one that we're only talking about. This, I guess, applies to all of them, but we were trying to define it a little tighter because the city clerk is the keeper of all records, and if they're related to a person, it just was a difficult situation there.
I've got a question for Mr. Richardson. Can you once again tell us what ramifications legally there would be if a council member's relative became the city clerk?
I think it's irrelevant as far as answering your question with regard to what our particular ordinance says. More importantly, the issue is going to be the Missouri constitutional provisions, commonly referred to as nepotism. Clearly, we understand what that means, and to that extent, this ordinance or any of the other 5 proposed ordinances or proposed current ordinances from neighboring cities would be trumped by the constitutional provisions. So, having said that as a background, the city manager, under our system of government, the city manager, the city clerk, are specifically council hires and council fires. And that means the 7 of you, or the 6 of you, or the 5 of you, or however many show up for the meeting and don't recuse. It falls directly upon the entire legislative body, the city council, to do the hiring, firing, disciplining, promoting, changing job descriptions, and so forth and so on. So to the extent that there happens to be a relative within the degree defined by both the Missouri Constitution and by our ordinance, it would be a violation of Missouri Constitution provisions of nepotism if that particular council person participated in any of those issues related to a relative within the proper degree.
And
however,
yeah, go ahead.
Any council person is certainly free and should declare a conflict of interest or a potential conflict of interest and should not participate in the discussions or any of the voting with regard to hiring such a person. And if an individual council person recuses, then it takes the body down from 7 to 6. It doesn't change the fact that it takes 4 votes of this council to hire, to fire, to discipline, to promote, to change job descriptions, to set salaries. And that can be certainly done on a continuing basis by the remaining unrecused council members, provided there are 4 of you that want to do it.
Okay. So as long as he recuses himself from anything to do with the hire?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Not only, anything to do with the hire, the fire, the discipline, the promotion, the changing of job descriptions, the salary, anything going forward, if a relative is hired by this council, it happens to be a relative past, present, or future of a council person, then the appropriate thing for that individual council person to do would be to recuse, not participate, and that would absolve that council person of any complaint or allegations of nepotism.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that.
Is there any other discussion or questions? If not, I entertain a motion and second to move item K to the voting session to be held, no, it's item J. Which one? I lost my place now. Item K to be held on April 1st. I thought it was tonight.
Mr. Richardson, so basically you're saying with our ordinance that we have in place now and the state statute would take care of all that?
Yeah, our ordinance is compliant with the Missouri Constitution. Every city does their own ordinance and has their own policy. All of those current ordinances by our neighboring cities are all compliant with the Missouri Constitution, as is ours. There's not a thing wrong with changing what you have if you want to. The little problem I have as your scrivener is if you're going to change this ordinance, I need to know what you want to change it to. And so if there's a motion to move it to a voting session in the future, I just need to know what you want me to put in the proposed ordinance that you're going to vote on. Your current ordinance is fine. It's compliant. Doesn't mean that you don't want to change it or improve it or do something different with it. That's perfectly all right. Just impossible for me to draft something unless I know what you want me to draft into it.
That's exactly why I wanted to bring it before the entire council tonight, so we could have the discussion. If the council is pleased with the way it is and don't want to make a change, that's fine too, but we just needed to have it out here, and if we did want to make a change, we needed to discuss what changes so that our city attorney would be able to describe it. So do we have a motion and second to move item K to voting session to be held April 1st? Item K will die for lack of motion. Moving on to our action required items. Would someone please bring Mayor Pro Tem Davis back in, please? Item AA, Bill Number 8127. The City Council will take action on an ordinance accepting a bid for the hay baling at the Poplar Bluff Municipal Airport.
Move for first reading of bill number 8127.
Second.
Motion and second for the first reading of Bill Number 8127. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance accepting a bid for hay baling at the Poplar Bluff Municipal Airport.
Motion for second reading.
Second.
Motion and second for second reading of Bill Number 8127. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance accepting a bid for hay baling at the Poplar Bluff Municipal Airport.
Motion to adopt bill number 8127.
Second.
Motion and second for adoption of Bill Number 8127. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kirby?
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Councilman Cornman,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
and Mayor McVeigh.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Bill Number 8127 has been adopted. Item BB, Bill Number 8128. The City Council will take action on an ordinance accepting a bid for farmland at the Poplar Bluff Municipal Airport.
Motion for first reading.
Second.
Motion is second for first reading of Bill Number 8128. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Poplar Bluff to enter into a lease agreement with James Lee Inman for the lease of agricultural land located at the Poplar Bluff Municipal Airport consisting of 93 acres.
Motion for second reading of
Second.
8128.
Motion is second for second reading of Bill Number 8128. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Poplar Bluff to enter into a lease agreement with James Lee Inman for the lease of agricultural land located at the Poplar Bluff Municipal Airport consisting of 93 acres.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and second for adoption of Bill Number 8128. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kirby?
Councilman Cornman.
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Black,
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Yes.
and Mayor McVeigh.
Yes.
There's 7 yes votes.
Bill Number 8128 has been adopted. Item CC, Bill Number 8129. The City Council will take action on an ordinance selecting an engineering firm for the Community Development Block Grant project for paving of various city streets.
Move for first reading of bill number 8129.
Second.
Motion is second for first reading of Bill Number 8129. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance selecting Mathis and Associates for engineering services relative to a community development block grant for the paving of various streets in Poplar Bluff.
Motion for second reading of bill number 8129.
Second.
Motion is second for second reading, bill number 8129. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Richardson?
An ordinance selecting Mathis and Associates for engineering services relative to a community development block grant program for the paving of various streets in Poplar Bluff.
Motion for adoption of 8129.
Do I have a second for adoption?
Second.
We have motion and second for adoption of bill number 8129. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kirby?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilman Black?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton?
Yes.
Councilman Cornman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Mayor McVeigh?
Yes.
7 yes votes.
Bill number 8129 has been adopted. We're not going to vote on it. Yeah, so you can stay. There will be no voting on item DD. We'll move to item EE, resolution number 1890. The city council will take action on a resolution authorizing the city to apply as a sub-applicant for the Community Development Block Grant for the Workforce Initiative Program. Need a motion for the reading, please?
So move.
Second.
Motion is second for the reading of resolution number 1890. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Richardson?
A resolution of the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to submit an application as a sub-applicant for a grant from the Community Development Block Grant Workforce Training Initiative Program.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
Motion is second for adoption of resolution number 1890. Is there any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kirby?
Councilman Black?
Yes.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton?
Yes.
Councilman Cornman?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Mayor McVeigh?
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Resolution number 1890 has been adopted. Item FF, resolution number 1891. The city council will take action on a resolution opposing the proposed Better Together plan.
Motion for first reading.
Second.
Motion second for the reading of resolution number 1891. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Richardson?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Poplar Bluff opposing the Constitutional Amendment Initiative petition proposing the consolidation of the City of St. Louis and St. Louis County and the cities within St. Louis County known as the Better Together Plan.
Motion for second reading.
Adoption.
Adoption.
Second.
Motion for adoption, resolution, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion for adoption and a second for resolution number 1891. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Richardson? Motion to adopt, and then I messed up. Motion to adopt resolution 1891. All those in favor? Huh? Roll call vote, okay. I'm just totally lost again. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton?
Yes.
Councilman Cornman?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilman Black?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Mayor McVeigh?
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Resolution number 1891 has been adopted. Item GG, the City Council of the City of Poplar Bluff will meet in a closed meeting in which they will discuss such matters which are exempted under the Opens Meeting Law, Section 610.021.1, .2, .3, .9, .11, .12, .13, .14 RSMO.
Motion to go into closed session following the city manager report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into closed session following the City Manager report. Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kirby?
Councilman DeGaris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Horton?
Yes.
Councilman Cornman?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilman Black?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
Mayor McVeigh?
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes.
Thank you, Ms. Kirby. We'll go into our closed session after the City Manager's report. Mr. Massingham?
Just a couple of items. Over the weekend, we had the bull riding at the Coliseum, and I know they had a big night Saturday night and a little bit smaller crowd on Friday night. Always amazes me to see all that dirt on the floor in there and the mess it makes and the work it takes to clean it up, but it brings the people in there, so. Also, April 13th is Buff Up the Bluff. I want to remind everybody of that. Anybody that'd like to volunteer to help, please call the planning department. And they actually started doing some of the striping on Shelby Road today, so hopefully not too long we'll be driving on it.
Do we have a ribbon cutting date?
We don't yet. Trying to get one set. That's all I
And
have.
spring comes this week, so we're very excited about that. It's here.
It is.
It's been a long winter. Is there anything else to come before the regular council meeting? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, or second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting- Meeting adjourned.